Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What is happening, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain. That is Coach Kenny Simpson. Coach, I think we both look exhausted. It is clinic weekend for both of us. If you guys don't know, Kenny and I both just flew in. Well, we got in at 2:00 this morning. It sounds like you flew in today. So we both just got back from Boston doing completely different clinics. We did the JDFB 425 defensive clinic. And of course, Kenny was up there with his gun T stuff, but man, what a weekend. We extended our spring break by a week because we just took the kids out of school since last Tuesday. So it has been nonstop from Tuesday to this morning. I'm glad to be home.
Yeah, man, Boston's a cool city. So I always look forward. I got to bring my son, youngest son. He got to come. He's never been to Boston, so we took him there and went to watch a hockey game. We went to watch the Bruins play the San Jose Sharks. So my son is now a big San Jose Shark fan because they beat the crap out of the Bruins and they were really good. So he's now a fan of them. And he's also, I've trained him right, so he hates the Patriots. So it's never going to be an option there for him. But he had a good time. We did a little hop on, hop off on the whatever the little city tour is. Did a little Boston Tea Party deal, and it was fun. He's 7th grade, so they're studying all that history, and it was cool to kind of see him experience that history. I've been up there for 5 years, so I've taken my wife, my oldest son, my daughter, my youngest son, and my mom came 1 year. So the staff at Malden Catholic has met pretty much almost all my family.
That's good though. I mean, to have that, consistency year after year, that's pretty neat. And Boston is still my favorite city. My wife and I went back in 2017 and just as a vacation. And so it's been pretty neat to go back. I went back last year with you, and then, this year getting to go with Joe. Dude, I love it. Like, there's just nothing like hopping on and off the subway and getting to see all the old historic stuff. I still have no want to go to New York, but I'm sure it's similar. But man, Boston it's just something about it. My kids actually got the opposite treatment. We went to the Tuesday Bruins game, and they won in overtime. So now they're diehard Bruins fans. They're all in on professional hockey with the Boston team. So we'll go Red Sox and Bruins. Once again, almost never going to be a Patriots fan, but that's okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, I guess they got the Celtics, but of course we have OKC right here in our backyard, so we can't be Celtics fans too. So 2 out of 4 of their major sports we're in on.
Yeah, that's a good city, and clinics are always fun. I've got one coming up in Tampa next weekend, and then I've got some private things I'm doing with a couple schools, and then I've got the last 2 official gun tea clinics. One will be in Milwaukee, and I think we got about 150. So I'm trying to stop taking registration, but it's hard for me to turn coaches away. And then we're going to go to Minneapolis. I've never been to Minneapolis. I've flown into it, but I've never actually been to Minneapolis. That's the last clinic I'm doing in April. And then we'll turn attention to spring football. We're fortunate enough to get opportunity to get spring football. I've been trying to hire coaches. They keep leaving to be head coaches, which is a great opportunity for them. You know how that works, Daniel. So it's,
your staff is that, like, did you lose 3 this offseason, 3 or 4?
I lost 1 last year, and we'll lose head coach this year, possibly another one to go be a coordinator or go be whatever he's going to go be. And so there's, which is great. I mean, that's awesome. Yep. So I got my start. So you got your start. And of course I'm being facetious, but it's a pain in the butt having to go find coaches. I've been blessed so far that each year we've gone, we've found some really good, young, talented coaches. So I've got 1 hired, working on getting another 1 or 2 hired, and then hopefully spring football. And then spring football, of course, leads into summer football, which leads into the season will be here really, really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. No, it seems like it's just around the corner. I think we're going to use spring break a little bit and get together as coaches because we kind of talked about this while we're in Boston, but there's just not enough time. There's no spring ball or football really started as soon as I took this head job 2 weeks ago, or almost 3 weeks ago now. But there's no time to talk to your coaches. Like, you need to be getting that installed. We got to install it to the kids, coming up here in May. So we're going to try to find a little time in spring break and try not to eat up their off. Like, it's a lot.
You gotta be efficient. You're learning that now on the job, all that stuff.
Yep.
Hopefully, that's why I put out all those books about head coach workbook and how to organize your staff. Because if you're not organized and you're limited on time, you know this, it gets really, you kind of get down to where you're not covering things you need to be covering, and then this gets neglected or that gets neglected, and it's a whirlwind. So if you're a guy out there who's become a head coach, trying to become a head coach, we do have a lot of materials over at fbcoachsimpson.com that are meant to help. They're meant to help you be organized. It could be a free whatever, or it could be a book, or it could be a course. But I've been there, and Daniel's about to be there, and he's kind of seeing it. So it's really neat. I think it's a great opportunity that we have as coaches. We just got to be really intentional with the time that we spend.
For sure. Sweet. Well, let's jump into our quote of the week real quick, Kenny, and then we're going to talk about scripting plays today. So you guys that are just hanging out, listen to us chit chat for now. We'll be doing, scripting plays, scripting drives, all of that. So hit us with that quote, Kenny.
Yeah. So this is coming out of Team Themes Volume number 6, which will be coming out. What's up, Stuart? I see you there, man. Team Themes Volume 6, which is going to be coming out probably around July. This will be the 6th volume of these. From FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. It says, when you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And I think the word of that week was answer. How do you answer when things don't go the way you want them to go? Which we're going to talk about scripting. So, which is really not going to be great for this episode. But my thought is we're going to get through the script. But a lot of times you do these scripts, you spend a lot of time on these things, and they don't work. You go 3 and out and you punt, and you go 3 and out and you punt. You could almost do another episode on now what? Now what do you do? Because your plan didn't work. Because at Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face.
That's right.
So we're going to talk today about scripting. We could probably come back and do another episode later on about what to do when all your plans that you had, all the details you put in, didn't work. Now what?
That's a really good quote, because and it does fit pretty well today. Because you go in with a plan, you go in thinking this is how it's going to look, and I love. We're going to be talking about yours here in a minute, Kenny, and the plan is to go score, but also we got a lot of intel together, right? So sometimes the plan is just go out and get what you can get. I'm good with that. All right, man. Real quick, some sponsors. When you talk about Ace Sports, if you have not contacted Mark Bridges over at Ace Sports, do so now. Now is the time as we close out March here. Gives him the time to get in with your admin set, see your image, like your dream, what you have envisioned, and start kind of giving you some pointers on how to do that. Working to get the financial side together. Excuse me. But Mark can come in and share that vision with you, your admin, and get a plan together. But now's the time. If you wait too much longer, you're going to be waiting until next year to get your video board up. So definitely get that going now. Ace Sports, acesports.com. You can email mark.bridges@acesports.com. Also, I want to talk about Winning Edge Performance Analytics. I talked to Doug. Man, excuse me, guys. I am still dealing with the allergies coming home from Boston. Man, it was wild. Talked to Doug the other day, and he's talking about the future of Winning Edge Performance Analytics. And what he's got going into this next year is basically after you break down your opponent, you throw it into WEPA, and then it will kind of give you reports similar to what Huddle does, but now he's making a lot of stuff automated. So you get the data that you would have put in Huddle anyway, you throw it in Huddle, you export it, you throw it in WEPA, and then all of a sudden it's telling you pregame what to look out for. So I think that's a huge advantage. We're going to use it for sure up at Miami this year, so that we can kind of see, what guys are trying to do. And then, of course, the in-game stuff is still amazing. You're still looking at what's efficient, what's explosive, what kids are really getting loose. Sometimes you think you can tell that, but we've tracked touches and everything else with it. And I mean, we lost a playoff game 2 years ago, and then after the game realized we didn't go to our second best player after halftime at all. It was just, you kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of calling plays. So, yeah, anyway, go over to winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Let Doug kind of show you what things he can help you with. Last but not least, Blended Threads LLC out here in Oklahoma. If you're looking for hats, shirts, swag, any of that stuff that you need for your coaches, sideline gear, parent stuff, you want to set up a pro shop, there are 1,000 things that Morgan can help you with over at Blended Threads. She's already been hitting me up with all the coaches that are contacting her saying, thanks for this. Thanks for putting that out on the air. So she's one of the sponsors that we do for free, just to kind of help that business along, which Kenny and I have been known to do for, throughout the years. What are we in season 7 now? About to close out season 7. So we've tried to help some people along the way and just kind of give back to the community. Morgan over at Blended Threads is one of those that we've taken on. So if you're needing anything, she can do your logo work for you, help you get patch hats, embroidered hats, sweaters. Hit her up, Morgan at blendedthreadsllc.com. Just let her know what you're doing. I recommend putting in that first email that the podcast sent you, and not because we need any glory, but she thought she was getting scammed by some people out of like New Jersey that hit her up. Just, hey, here's what I need. She's like, how do you know about me? You're in New Jersey. And they finally said, hey, it's in the podcast. So if you're that coach, thank you for letting Morgan do some work for you. But for the rest of you guys, if you reach out, just let her know where you're coming from or where you heard about her. All right, let's jump into it here, Kenny. Kind of part 1 here. What is your plan on scripting plays for a game or a half or a drive or however you're doing it? What do you go in with there?
But we're a little bit different, I think because we're our offense is relatively unique from other people. We don't really know what to expect. I stopped trying to give up. I stopped trying to figure out what people were going to do a long time ago. I used to run spread offense. You have a pretty good idea what you were going to see. Like you knew based off the film, because a lot of people run spread. So if you're running a more general offense, you may have more of a plan based off of film study that you've seen them line up against whatever you're running. And so you can have a more educated guess. We don't have that luxury because we run an offense that not a lot of people run. And so for us, the first part of the game, Daniel kind of mentioned we are trying to score, obviously, but we're also trying to gather information. We're trying to figure out things that we thought might be true. Are they showing up? Are they true? If we thought you were going to give us this look against this alignment, are you giving us that? If we thought you were going to put this player in this position, did you do that? Because when we play teams, a lot of times they'll move defenders because we're kind of a unique offense. So I want to give that little caveat first. And then what we're trying to do with our drive is we're trying to confirm your alignment to all of our sets.
Right.
So for me, we're going to try within the first 5 to 10 plays to show you a lot of different looks to see how you handle things. And so what I mean by that is we're going to give you a motion. We're going to give you a couple motions, maybe a motion from the backfield, or maybe a motion across the formation, or maybe a motion, towards the sideline. So we're going to kind of work through different things formationally to confirm that with a motion. Like how are you handling? Are you spinning your coverage to it? Are you running with the motion? Are you just bumping it off? What are you doing with motion? What are you going to do if we shift the strength of our offense? If we line up in what we would call strong right and we end up in strong left, what are you doing to that? Are you just bumping players? Are you trying to run guys across? Are you, potentially just rolling different players down? Because we might be able to find an advantage in that. Maybe when we shift your lesser player, he's now become the force player. Well, that would be an advantage for us. So we know we want to continue to shift because we're getting what we want. Or you may be trying to sprint across and it's causing chaos for your defense.
Right.
That could be an advantage. We would like that. Or maybe you're rolling, a free safety. He has to become a strong safety. And so he's not real comfortable in that role. Well, then we're going to continue to do that. We want to run that in the first 5 plays or so. We want to look at how are you handling different looks that we throw out. So we throw out like empty. And what are you running against empty with us? Are you trying to stay super aggressive and keep your box, full? and give us some one-on-one opportunities or some space for our receivers? Or are you backing up a little bit and maybe lightening the box up? So we're going to give you an empty check or an empty look in the first 5 to 10 plays. We're going to give you a trips look. Most defenses have 2 or 3 trips adjustments we've seen on film. Which one are we getting? What are we getting if we line up in trips? What are we getting if we motion into trips? And so that will give us some ideas on what do we want to do when we need to get into that, to throw the ball. Then we're going to give you an unbalanced look. We're big on unbalanced. We've run unbalanced probably 30% of the time in our offense, where we bring the tackle over with a nub tight end on the backside. What are you going to do to that? Are you going to try to stay in some kind of man on that nub tight end and give us an advantage to the overload side? Or are you trying to roll down to the overload side and you're kind of conceding if we want to throw the ball back to the tight end or going one-on-one on the edges? So we're going to try to give you all of that in the first 5 to 10 plays. We're also looking for like rotation stuff. How are you rotating your players? If we give you trips into the boundary versus trips to the field, are we getting a different look with that? So we're trying to confirm all of these things. And then we're also going to check your keys. Like, what are your keys if we pull our guards and we run something the other direction? Are you keying our linemen, or are you keying the backfield? Are you cross keying the backfield? Who's looking at our wing? If he blocks, who's fitting off of that? So we're wanting to see where your eyes are as a defensive coach. So now I know how I can manipulate your players to fit the wrong way. So for instance, if you were reading our guards, we might pull our guards to the right and run speed option to the left. That could be a good play for us. Or we might pull our guards to the right and know that's going to set up the RPO or play action game. If you're not keying the guards, let's say you're keying the backfield, then we know our double handoff, our counter game ought to be good because you're keying the backfield. And so we can also run play action against that. We can pull linemen to go block for some play action and fake the ball. So we're looking at where are your eyes going. Same thing with your DBs. And we have a tight end wing surface. Who's looking at them? Who's looking in the backfield and not looking at them. So we kind of know what we want to do in the play action game. Finally, I do think it's important to get a good start at high school football. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but it's important, I think, to set a tone early in the game of this is who we are, and hopefully, we're going to score. So I do think you are designing plays to try to score. So you want to find out information, but you don't want to find out information at the detriment of trying to score points.
Right. Those are all really, really good points. The plan for me, and I know you're going to go into like counts and play counts, and I will too in this next section. I've noticed that with the offense that I run, I have a friend of mine who's been a defensive coordinator for a long time, and I quickly in spring ball even was accelerating his install plan. He's like, dude, you got me out here on day one putting in, an empties check and a quads check, and like what we shouldn't be seeing this stuff this early. So that's my plan is in the early weeks, especially, is like, what has your DC gotten to? What does he have installed? Because he may not be seeing the stuff we're going to throw at you in his spring ball, in his 7-on-7, in his fall ball, right? So as we're getting into that game, what has he really truly installed? And then what is he trying to draw up in the sand on the sidelines where I know he's got one look or one check because, oh crap, coach, they went empty with 4x1. Okay. So that's kind of the first thing is, and it's no different than the other formations. Well, how are you aligning the stuff and what is your plan? Did you have one? Do you have more than one? When I was first getting started as a DC, I always wanted to carry 3 trips checks, right? So I think that's a comfortable place. It gives you a check, an off check, and then that one that they have no idea is coming, you can kind of, catch them off guard with it. But the biggest thing is they can't go out and know what you're going to run. Well, if no one's ran empty, they may just have one empty check, and now you can kind of, tag your plays up to take advantage of that later in the game. We also are looking to show by a plan, and we talk about this script early in the game. I want that next week's DC to have a ton to look at, right? So my script, yes, I'm looking for data now. I'm trying to problem solve now, but I'm also adding to the complexity for next week. So they're going to say, Jesus, in their first 15 plays, I saw 15 different formations, right? And for us, it's not 15 formations. It was probably 3 or 4, and we just tagged it all up. But I want that next guy to have to look at a ton of stuff, whether that's formation wise, shifts, motions, even different plays or tags on those plays. So, kind of what you talked about and just giving that different look and seeing how they're going to play stuff. I just want next week to know that you either got to come out and be really good at playing just base, or you're going to be installing a bunch of stuff to try to, match up what we are wanting to do. So that's kind of where I want to go with my script. Obviously, you can't get ahead of yourself. You got to go be successful in the game you're in. But we can be doing two things at once, right? Kind of kill two birds with one stone. So that's where we're at. As we get to part 2 here, is just why do we do it different than the old school way? I remember even when I came in, everybody was still following the Bill Walsh model of 20 plays, like 10 to 20 plays. And still people in my circle do it that way. But man, you go out and a play hits big. Some guys are really afraid to get away from that script and just run that play again, right? No, I need to see the next thing. And maybe it's advantageous. Maybe it's the counter to that play that just hit big, but maybe not. You might be in a completely different personnel package. Like they can't stop what's on the field and you're changing just to stick to the script. Or you want to make sure you get a bunch of passes in early so you don't get, where you're stuck in a run game. But you go out and throw 2 or 3 incompletions, and now the next play on the script is another throw, but your guy's not in rhythm yet. So you probably should be running the ball, but the script says we need to go out and throw a pass here. So I think that's mainly why I want to do it a little bit different. Is just so we don't paint ourselves in a corner. And that might be the motto for my first head coaching job is don't paint yourself in a corner with anything, right? Whether that's rules or standards or your playbook or personnel packages, whatever. Just give yourself some room to breathe. And I think if you go out and script 20 plays and stick to 20 plays, that's a third of your football game, right? Most guys are getting 60 offensive plays. So I might be going into half and I finally cleared the list. That just seems very that's hard and fast. And I don't need that, right? I can go out and kind of be like water, if you will, kind of take what they're giving us. So Kenny, I'll kind of let you get going here on that. Why do you do things differently from that old school mentality?
Yeah, let me kind of speak to what you just said just for a minute, and then I'll move over to that. I think the idea of a script is to be a tool. It's to be a tool that if you need it, you can go to it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having 15 or 20 plays that you want to run in a game. But like you said, that's a tool. And, the tool, if you don't need the tool, you don't go use the tool. But I've learned quite a bit that, it's part art and part science, but it's hard to be a really smart scientist when the heat is on. And it's easier to be making rational decisions on Thursday or whatever day you finish up your script. So you want to have plenty of information available at your fingertips. I think those coaches that have those huge play call sheets in the NFL, I just know what they're going to call those plays. Well, they've got them on there because those are tools for them to get to when things don't go well. Like I have found myself, as I've gotten older especially, I'll call plays off of the script if things aren't going well or it's super intense and I need to go ahead and trust, my Thursday version of me when it was calm for a play call. But I would say 8 out of 10 games, that thing's in my back pocket. And I know my offense well enough. I'm just calling plays based off of what I see. But it's important to have it. So I think, like Daniel's mentioning, you don't want to paint yourself in a corner. Absolutely not. You don't want to tie a call sheet around your neck and you got to call what's on the sheet. You don't want to be a robot, but you want to have it available if you need it, because I've been there before where it ain't working and there's nothing more helpless than it's not working and you don't have anything on that sheet you can go to help you get out of that funk. That's a very helpless feeling. So I would encourage every coach on here, whatever you decide to do, more information on the sheet than you think you're going to need. Think about it like studying for a test. Make sure you're studied everything you can study. You might not even need some of that stuff this week, but you might need it next week. That's kind of what goes on our call sheet. Now, the way we do calls for your question is we usually will run the first 3 plays of the first 3 drives. That's kind of what we put on our script. And then below it, I put about 3 to 4 first half plays and 3 to 4 second half plays. And I've got other stuff on my script as well. Like we got all the third downs and all that stuff. I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. I think we're just talking about opening script is kind of what you're wanting, but I've got all that stuff on there. So it's probably somewhere around 15 to 20 plays total for the whole game. But the reason we go 3, 3, and 3 is a couple reasons. One, I found that if we go 3 and out, we're going to need a whole new drive starter, and those drive starters are kind of important. Or if we run, like Daniel said, you run a play and it's working really well, you might only get those 3 plays in that whole drive. Now you call a play and there it goes, and you're not even going to really use your script to call the next play, but then you're going to go back to it, So we'll use those first 3 plays. We would like to get them in order if possible, but we're not going to be married to it. And then the next drive, I like to have, what are we going to start out with? I think sometimes the hardest play to call is the first play of the drive. Like that's the hardest play to call most of the time. So if I can get 3 different drive starters on there, then we're going to do that instead of just having 10 plays in a row. Second reason is we rotate personnel. Again, I don't know what your situation is. We have kids that have to go both ways. So not all of our kids do, but at least a couple, and some years more than a couple. So usually that means we're going to rotate them on offense. I'm the head coach. We're going to win championships with defense. So our dudes are going to play defense, and they're going to rest when we're on offense. And so knowing that, I kind of know, talking to the defensive coordinator, who I'm going to have drive 1 to start out, who I'm going to have drive 2 to start out, who I'm going to have drive 3 to start out, and it could be a different grouping. And so you don't want to call a play designed to go to maybe your backup, whatever kid. So I've had that happen a ton to me where I've got it scripted, get ready to call a play, and I look over, and we rotated the sophomore out there at receiver, and I'm going, well, I'm not calling that one. And so, that happens a lot more than you think it will, because when you give your coaches authority to rotate kids, you got to kind of make sure there's a communication going on. And I'm not blaming them. If I haven't communicated well on what's coming up, and we've talked before the game of, hey, we need to rest this kid as much as we can and get him out there. Well, that's helped me. If I'm scripting the first 3 drives, I should know who's out there. We've sat as a staff and we've said, drive 1, here's who's starting. Drive 2, here's who's starting. Drive 3, here's who's starting. And that way I can call at least those first 3 plays knowing, unless somebody gets injured, knowing what I'm working with. And that has helped quite a bit. I do want to mention a couple other things that are on our call sheet. I know this is a script episode, but I think it's also important. You script your first 2 or 3, or we usually script 3, third and longs in order, third and mediums in order, third and shorts in order, red zone, first 5 in order. And so we do that by practicing them all week. So my offensive coaching staff, usually my quarterback coach is assigned third downs. That's going to be his money down. He's coaching the guy that it matters. He's got third downs. So we'll sit Sunday and come up with a list of maybe 8, and then we'll work those throughout the week, and we'll come back on Wednesday and go, okay, here's the 8 we came up with. We're only going to carry 4. Which 4 do you like in what order? And we might even talk to the quarterback. What do you like in what order? And then that's what it's going to be. So we know the order of what's getting called. Because first time it's 3rd and 12, you don't want to be out there just going, one of these plays. Now we want to know this is what we're calling on 3rd and 12, and this is what we're calling on 3rd and 2. And this is what we're calling in the red zone. And this is what we're calling when the game is on the line. So the more of that stuff you can script, and I know like Daniel said, you don't want to paint yourself in a corner, but you want to at least have it available to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've always gone in the order that we talked about on Thursday, because I've done it long enough now where I've been like, well, the game's not playing out how I thought it was going to play out. I like this one instead. So I'm going to go with this one. but more often than not, I'll lean on what we decided before we walked out there into 4,000, 5,000, however many people you play in front of people that are trying to help you make a decision on what to call.
That's pretty funny. I really took the scripting the first 3 drives like you, and I took it straight from you. That 3 to 5 plays per drive, generally 3, right? I think you get your most efficient plays. You get that P and 10 to be efficient, which we've talked with Cameron Palmer about that before, and Tyler Snyder was on the podcast, and he kind of talked through that, I believe. But being efficient on P and 10, and then getting that first down, right? Just get some momentum. So I think those plays help you do that while you're answering the questions, while you're trying to go be a successful play caller, getting your kids in rhythm, getting the kind of the rust knocked off the O-line or whoever it is. So that to me seems the best. And then we just go, if they got bad look, if they have a bad, if we had a successful play, if there's a tag, kind of the RPO type stuff. Hey, they played buck really well, or they played our outside zone. Cool. We can RPO the backside of it. Kind of whatever it is that can take us off that script at that point. We just look at what we had some success with or what made us not be successful, and then go, tag it up or whatever to make that work. The other thing is a matchup, right? If we find a kid that like all of a sudden you don't have an answer for him, we'll come off the script fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. If I throw a bubble and you have 3 dudes out there and he makes you all look silly, we're going to go back to him. I'm going to immediately get that kid the ball because there's no reason not to, right? I actually made a Twitter post the other day. I got some film from a coach and he said, "Oh, this team has this kid. He was really good. If they'd keep feeding him, they would have beat us. We had no way to stop him, but they didn't. They like refused to go give that kid the ball." We definitely don't want to be that guy, right? If a kid is out there just making people look silly, give him the football and let him continue to make people look silly. So that's something that can kind of pull us off of our script, even if it's that first play, right? I talk about wanting the first 3 plays of a drive. If first play is great, you're probably getting a Xerox. It's probably coming again right now. And then, tag off of that. So those where we've got, 18 plays, three plays on 3 drives for each half, that might be 50 plays. That might be most of our night is just the tags and answers off of that, or just repeating them because they were so successful. So, anyway, that's kind of how we're doing it. And I know I stole a ton of that from you back when I very first met you on Joe Daniels' podcast. So I appreciate that. It's been good for me. Let's jump to this last part here, Coach. And how do you change up your script as the season progresses? So obviously you can't come out and show the same stuff, but kind of what are the variables that make you make changes?
Yeah, I mean, to me, we're going to use the same process. So like that part's not really going to change, but I think a lot of it changes based off of, who you're playing. Like every week we're attacking your specific defense. So like when we're doing this script, we're coming after your guys. Daniel just mentioned it. You throw a bubble out there and they can't tackle you. Well, hopefully you did that on purpose because you watched the film and you found out which kids don't tackle well. That's who you threw it at. So that's kind of what we're doing with our script. It will change. If we look at your film and, we played a couple teams this year where we watched film and we were like, my goodness gracious, they're elite up front. Like they are really good up front. We're going to have to throw the ball, and we're going to have to come out throwing, and we're going to have to be willing to throw a lot of 1st and 10s and throw the ball more than we need to or want to really, because that's what we're going to have to do to be successful. Because we look at your talent. So we're going to look at your team, what you're good at, or it could be the opposite. We might look at your film and go, my goodness, they got 4 guys back there that all can run and jump and catch, but they're not great in the box. Right. Well, we're going to flip that mindset of how we're going to attack, or it could be specific players. Like you've got one guy, we're going to avoid going at him wherever he is, or maybe we're going to go at him because of the opposite reason. So personnel is a big, big driver of what we're going to do. Our personnel too. Our personnel adjusts. You kind of find who you are as the season goes on. Right now in March, we all have an idea what we think we're going to be, but that changes. Our team, even week to week, you kind of find out, oh, okay, I thought we were going to be more this, but it looks like these kids are developing quicker. This seems to be a strength we have I didn't know about. This hasn't worked like I thought it would. So you got to constantly make adjustments and see, what are we going to do? And the big thing is who are we going to use in our offense? And like I said, that can change week to week. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as making adjustments throughout the week. I think the best coaches, in my opinion, uh, are the guys that when you get off of the script, they know where to go next. And you can't be there. I'm still learning. Like you can't be there until you've run whatever you've run to the point where if they do this, then this is my answer. And really, the only way you find that out, unfortunately, is through experience, through doing it. They do this, they take this away. I tried this and that worked really well. Why'd that work? And I research, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So it's easy to, kind of get on Twitter or podcasts or whatever and talk about, hey, if this happens, then you do this. But you really only find that stuff out through the fire because your team might be different than my team. Your team, it may not be a schematic. If this happens, then this. Your team might be, if all crap is breaking loose, this is the guy that needs the ball in his hands because he's kind of our guy. Or if everything's going crazy, this is the play we can run. Well, that changes year to year, and that can change week to week. And so you've got to constantly be looking at that stuff.
That's a really good point. Is the kids that change. I always look back at film. So you get 10 film or something at the end of a season and watch how a team evolves, and that evolution is a multitude of things. Kid injuries and what have we just gotten better at? What has our coach been good at developing our kids to do? Is there some kid who just broke out of his shell and now he can just go out and do something he was not able to before? The guys who have to read a lot, quarterbacks and running backs, and if you're a zone team, those guys that are seeing a variable on the field every night, they obviously are going to get better as the season goes on. So toward the end of the season, you can use more, they're more of an asset. They have more tools to use. So you can kind of lean into that into your scripting. I also think often when I was in school, and the guy's still there at Seminole, when we went and played Seminole, we always knew Coach Snyder was going to come out and give you a chaotic formation for the first play of the game. At one point, I remember, if I can remember correctly, when I was a senior, he had passed the first play of every game for 15 straight games or 20 or something, right? Because that's just what they want to do. They want to throw a crazy formation and they want to throw the ball just to get out of that. Hey, we're going to go out here and run power. But then he would get right back into his flow of his script. But it was fun looking back and going, that guy just mixed it up just to mix it up. I think at some point he was trying to keep the legacy going, right? Like, we're going to give you something you've never seen before, a formation you may have never seen on tape, which now the internet's a lot bigger and guys have seen just about every formation. But that's stuff he was doing with his script. So that's kind of fun too. It's okay to go out and have fun. Something we carry is like an auto shift formation. So it's going to be a format. We don't even have a name for it. We made it up. We shifted a few guys and made something we're comfortable with to go run a play. We want to throw that out there. It's kind of the same concept. I just want you to see something you've never seen on tape before, because your kids don't know how to defend it either. So I think that's a lot of fun, and why we evolve and change that. The thing that stays the same is that everything changes. So we want to consistently have a basis of change in our first scripted plays, formations, etc. Another thing is we want to make sure we're carrying wrinkles to our best plays. So if we ran for 250 yards, last week on GT counter, I want you to know GT counter's coming, but we have a wrinkle off of it because I know that you're going to try to defend it a special way, right? So Kenny's no different than what you do. Is just everything is buck, and then as soon as it isn't, they're in a bad position because they have to sell out to stop buck. We have a little, we're not, maybe our identity is lacking, but I'm a big GT counter guy. That's where I want to be, is in GT counter. And so we're going to have what that wrinkle is off that. Another thing's our jumbo package. I remember that first year we moved over to Bristow and nobody could stop Jumbo. There were some games you go, why did we get out of it? Why did we ever quit running the Jumbo package? No one can stop that. But obviously you've got to throw other things. You got to get other things on film. But we want wrinkles to those big plays or big successful, concepts, whether it's pass or run or formations, whatever. And then I already kind of mentioned personnel who are getting hot. If my, sophomore quarterback, which we run a true quarterback, two quarterback system, if he's really good at the things that he's really good at and he's getting even better at it, you might see more of him in those opening scripted plays than, the junior quarterback or whoever. Whoever's getting good at their job, at using the tools that we have for them, you're going to see some more of that. And we're going to try to keep mixing it up. So I know that's kind of the ultimate, like, no answer because, well, what are you scripting? Well, we don't know. We got to see, right? But that's how the evolution of a team happens over a season. We don't know what's going to be good. I don't know that there would ever be a year that Kenny Simpson isn't going to have Buck Sweep as his base. But I guess if you had a team that just was so good at belly it couldn't be stopped, why wouldn't you run it, right? Like it's so. That's kind of where we are. It's just what's going well for us. Are we an inside zone team this year? Are we a duo team? Are we outside zone? What can our kids do well? What can our coaches coach well this year? You just talked about the coaching turnover. You're about to get a few guys. They may just be like, hey, dude, I can teach bash concept like crazy. Let's add bash concept. And now all of a sudden it's your best play. So I think that's where that evolution happens, is just what are we good at?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of hit on it too. Tendency breakers is what we would call those. Like,
Yes.
we've shown on film, I'm aware when I go in balance, we're 99% to the strong side. And so we know that. We know that. So we're going to bait you and have some trick play from unbalanced that goes back to the quick side. So we just call those tendency breakers. But I thought it was a really good point, Daniel, having that, knowing who you are. Now, here's what I would caution you about. We used to play this team. I'm not going to mention their name because we might play them if we get in the playoffs. They used to be in our conference. And their coach, I'm a huge fan of their coach. I think he does a phenomenal job. So I'm not saying this is an insult, but sometimes I think coaches are almost too smart. So like he was a big formation guy, big unbalanced guy, big and did a lot of really good stuff. And then like I would watch the film and he would run like counter back to the nub when they had 5 defenders over there and they would lose like 3 yards. I'm like, why in the world are you doing that?
Right.
And he said, well, coach, I just got to be real careful with my tendencies. And I was like, I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't want to lose 5 yards to show you I will break a tendency. Like if they're not lining up right, keep running to the strong side. So I think sometimes you got to be careful. You can overthink, well, they're going to know this on film, so we're going to come back and get them. Sometimes we give the other coach too much credit. He only had 3 days to watch you. He may not know all that stuff. So be careful if you get into tendency break. I think they're good, but be careful as you go down that rabbit hole.
It's a very good point there, Kenny. Well, I think that does it for this episode, man. I know it is a little bit shorter, but that's okay. Spring break is upon us, right? It's time to get out of the coaching office, trying to get out of the computer office, go enjoy life a little bit. We'll close with our sponsors one more time. Go to acesports.com, email mark.bridges@acesports.com. Just reach out and get an idea, right? Talk to Mark and figure out where the starting point is. Where's that starting line? What can we do? Look, you can get as little or as much as you want from those guys over at Ace Sports. The sky's the limit. You can build your dream, or you can get in and just get something that's efficient if that's what you want to do. If you want to get something that's a money-making, efficient video board, they have those. If you want to go build, something that covers the entire end zone, well, I mean, let's be honest. We just saw the Big 12 played their basketball tournament on one giant board, right? The basketball court was a glass video board. So I think at this point, you can do really whatever you want. And Ace Sports, I guarantee, is going to be there to help you set it up. So email mark.bridges@acesports.com. Don't forget about our guy, Doug, over at Winning Edge Performance Analytics, winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Let him kind of show you what he's got going on, adding to this year, and then helping you tag all your film on Friday night as you're playing the game, so you get a little bit of that time back on Saturday or Sunday when you get into the office. And the last one is Morgan over at Blended Threads LLC. If you're just needing a one-off, you want to get some shirts for your wife, whatever, she can help you design stuff. I'm a Photoshop guy. I like making graphics, so I send her stuff to make all the time. She's like, thank you for, sending me a thing here. I'm going to make it better because she's better at it than I am. So whatever you're wanting to do, I think I've got Huddle and Cuddle sweatshirts coming for next fall because, you can Netflix and chill or you can huddle and cuddle. So we're going to huddle and cuddle in my household. So those are some sweatshirts I'll be having.
Don't give those to your assistant coaches. That'd be weird.
Nope. They can give them to their wives. That is a little bit weird. But I'll be getting made for my wife. So anyway, get whatever you want. Morgan at blendedthreadsllc.com. Shoot her an email. Like I said, make sure you let her know where you heard about her. If you're, 15 states over or something, she may be a little weirded out. All right, Kenny. I am at social media wise. I'm at Coach Chambo OK on X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. The YouTube and the Patreon are still there. If you guys have any questions, hit those up. Kenny, where are you at, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So on that note, I've thought about it just now. We have a book, Play Caller's Guide, which literally has a whole chapter that talks about scripting. So if you're interested in it, it's over at fbcoachsimpson.com, where there's 43 other books you can go get. Or you can go over to Gun T System if you want .com, guntsystem.com if you want stuff from the Gun T. Everything else for me is all FB Coach Simpson. FB Coach Simpson at Gmail, at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter.
Love it. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter/X. We want to thank you for being a listener of the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing so you always know when the new episodes are out. It's time to leave reviews. If you're listening anywhere, Facebook, Twitter, any of the podcast things after this is posted, leave us some reviews. Share the thing out. We want to grow and help other coaches. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.